This is Kohima. And for almost 8 months of the year, this is also Kohima. And yet, one of the biggest issues in Kohima is the shortage of water. Kohima has 4 major sources of water from rivers, namely Dikhu, Doyang, Jhanji, and Dhansiri. Besides that, Kohima experiences rainfall almost throughout the year. Kohima also has plenty of natural springs, streams, and wells. Imagine having all these sources of water in abundance and yet having a water crisis. This has got to be the biggest joke in the country. So the question to ask is, are we stupid? Or am I just making assumptions without actually understanding the ground reality? To understand the severity of the situation, take a look at this chart comparing Kohima to the capitals of other northeastern states. The charts speak for themselves. This chart was prepared by Hunishe Club. A massive shout out to the team for letting me use this insightful research chart on the water problem of Kohima. They post random facts about Nagaland using humor and sarcasm. I've been following them for a while now. Do check them out. I'll leave a link below in the description. The rivers and streams in and around Kohima are enough to meet the water requirements of the city. Why can't we just source water from them and solve the problem? And we're not even talking about connecting pipelines stretching hundreds of kilometers. It's right there. So I guess the only thing to do now is point fingers and blame the administration and lack of proper town planning, right? I thought so too, but after I interviewed a certain someone, I learned that the problem was not as simple as we thought. In order to get to the bottom of this, I interviewed a junior engineer from the Water Resource Department who is very well versed with the situation. He's been in the field for over 30 years now and understands the actual challenges that we might not have even considered.
Because the distance is far. Downward pressure or upward pressure to namila hoise. Itu bara discharge to komti hoise. Source te to pani to bishi ase. Bole bi aigena ami ganda bongche. Itu hando elevation low level ho jaise. So we need mechanical means. Itu expensive ho, maintenance lagibo. Itu bara ipali side laga to pani na iniga to hoye. Bole bi ami kan chula bole to tate itu factory ta ahi jai. From my point of view, chambers tipo lagi. Kitia chambers tipo airwell itu hando iman kam na kore, to itu handa lagi bo. Aro kitia chamber de bo itu discharge to tate velocity, centrifugal force kan itu increase kura laga kam ahibo, to flow will be more.
Okay.
Whereby people will have better supply, more supply. When we talk about revenue, it is the government revenue and the public. Government is for public. So, it revenue generate kura nakura laga kotha no ikina. Scarcity of water is important. Government do thagabi nai na thagabi nai. Ki lage public should be sufficient with what we do. American itu accommodation. Itia thagado it is not enough. To itu koribo ki koribo. Itu explore koribo le to government laga kam ase. But today's world, we should not depend too much on government also. This type of either it is electrification or supply of water, we should also learn to privatize. Itu privatize kurile mane itu government laga headache bi komti hobo. Itu unemployment problem bi komti hobo. Aro supply chain also becomes better because private parties they take better care. So from that point of view, privatization is good. For example, just a GI pipe, I think it's around 10 kilometers. Itu leak hoy, pipe can burst hoy jay. Itu gari tangur kan pura bhi bhangi de. So many reasons are there. Odebi kitia itu checkpoint kan to dibo. Itu one part to chhadi dibo. Kodi biya hoy jay. Itu to hi aibo to kam kura do bhi it becomes easier. Now, itia supply government pura kod pura haine. Source de na bongche. Itu pura supply to komti hoy jay nikan hoy do. Source de to waste kuri ase do. Ami kan lobo na barai ase. To itu kan karone we have to find out some more advanced technologies. source পৰা আহিব আহাদো একটা জায়গা কালেক্ট কৰিব লাগিব তাতে পৰা হি কলোনিতে যাব ইটো কলোনিতে যাওঁতো এক পাৰ্টে সব কলোনিতে নহব তো ইটো পৰা তাতে বি ৰিজাৰ্ভ কৰিব লাগিব ইটো ৰিজাৰ্ভ কৰি কিনা টাইমিং ৰাখি কিনা কলোনি ওয়াইজ তো এক কোনটা ওলিবি পাইপ ইকি লৈ কিনা ডিস্টেন্স তো বেছি ডিফাৰেন্স নাথাকিলে অলপ সলপ আগে পিছে হোৱাটো ইট ইজ অকে ইটো পৰা একো ইফেক্ট নহব তো কিমান লিটাৰ দিব ইটো কাৰণে হিচাপ কৰি ভাগ কৰিব পাৰিব ওলিবি কলোনি ওয়াইজ দেবি পপুলেশ্যন ইজ অলসো ইম্পৰ্টেন্ট তো আমি কিন্তু ইটো কিন্তু এতিয়া তো শুরু কৰা নাই তো আমি কিন্তু ওয়াটার ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন লাগা সিস্টেম দে আমি কিন্তু ক্যালকুলেট কৰা তো একজন মানুহ 100 to 150 লিটার্স লাগে ঘৰ সাফা কৰা গাড়ী সাফা কৰা ইটো আহিলে তো আপ টু 250 লিটার্স লাগে একজন তো ইটো খান ক্যালকুলেট কৰি কিনা ইটো খান তো আরসিসি স্ট্রাকচার হি হ'ব নহলে ইটো আরসিসি স্ট্রাকচার নহলে তো প্লাস্টিক টেঙ্কি কি জুলাই তো বার্স হয় কি হলে ইট ইজ নট সেফ ফর হিউম্যান তো আরসিসি টেঙ্কি খান বানাইলে তো উই নরমালি ক্যালকুলেট এট 100 ইয়ার্স তো ইটো 100 ইয়ার্স কারণে কলোনি লাগা এভারেজ তো বি ল'ব লাগিব এতিয়া সাপোজিং 10,000 পপুলেশন আছে তো 100 ইয়ার্স তে কিমান ইটো হিসাব কৰি কিনে কলোনি কারণে একটা ৰাখিব তাতে পৰা আৰু বি সব টেঙ্কি তো বানাই দিলে কিতিয়া বি স্কারসিটি তো নাথাকে
If this were to come true, taking a bath once a week would become a thing of the past. But how long do we have to wait for this dream to come true? Can we as a people come together and make this happen? Or are we going to go back to the matrix and play the blame game? Leaving aside the complainers, for all you hustlers out there, this should actually be very good news. Wherever there's a problem, there's always money to be made.
To make money?
Yes, to make money.
Biggest example is the water supply pickup trucks.
In my search for a solution to the water crisis in Nagaland, I also realized that there was a small portion of the population who were actually thriving, turning crisis into opportunity.
September plus in our February
May.
Dini pasta kita ba chuita kita ba tinta yu hoy jay makana
I think 6 times 7 times pani pala about it.
per trip te do 1300 loi thake makan
Location is up to kumba jaga de 1 2 le 1 3.
So basically, on an average, these guys make anywhere from 20,000 rupees to 30,000 rupees per month. And there are also those that have linked up with big institutes like schools, hospitals, colleges, and have converted them into regular clients. So you can buy a pickup truck right now and start this business and further saturate the market. Or let's discuss other possible alternatives, which I will be sharing very shortly. According to the State Disaster Management website, Nagaland receives an annual rainfall of 1,800 to 2,500 millimeters per year. To put things into perspective, that's about 554 liters per day for an average-sized family living in an average-sized home. I'll get into the details of that later in the video. Based on this, I've compiled a table of my own to better understand the problem and possibly find a solution. Keep in mind that this table is for a 1,000 square feet roof area. This row gives you the amount of rainwater collected per square feet of roof area. The next row gives you the rainwater collected per month. And the next one gives you rainwater collected per day. After that, you have months where we have sufficient rainfall for our daily use. And next, we have months where rainfall is low and is not enough to meet our daily requirements. It's clear to see that during the months of November, December, January, February, and March, the water scarcity problem is at its peak. But I did not want to conclude my survey based off data I found online alone. I wanted to find out what the residents of Kohima actually have to say about the whole situation. So I went further and interviewed a bunch of people to get their views.
বেছি আছে
প্ৰব্লেমটো আছে
উইন্টাৰ টাইম দে বেছি তো পায়
ওই
পেছি বা
পিছি মন্দ ঘৰ মালিক পদে
প্লাই পানীটো নাপায় উপায় নাই কিনিবলৈ লাগিছে উপায় নাই কিনিবলৈ লাগে পানী পানী কিনে
এইটোতো উপায় নাই কিনি নাই ইউজ কৰিব লাগিছে
1,300 so 1,300
1,300 400 ইনা থাকে
1,300 2,000 liters লাগিনে
2,000 কিনি না আৰু মখান 500 লিটাৰ ইনা লৈ
2,000 লিটাৰ কিনিব 2,000 কিনে থাকে গভৰ্ণমেণ্ট বি মতো কৰিলে তো ভাল আছে
পানী কিৰা দিনতে ৰেইন ৱাটাৰ হাৰ্ভেষ্ট কিনাৰ কিছিলে এইটো প্ৰব্লেমটো টেকেল কৰিলে পাৰো নিচিনা ৰেইন ৱাটাৰ হাৰ্ভেষ্টিং আন সব কিবি জানিও দিলে ভাল
স্কিম একটা নিনা চাই দিলে বেছি ভাল হ'ব নেকি গভৰ্ণমেণ্ট খানব্ৰা কলনীতে জাগা জাগা না ৰেইন ৱেল খুন্দি দিলে বেছি ভাল হ'ব না ভাবি আছে November bara shuru hoigena April tak jabo. December da April nisna hunagi.
December, January, February, March. December, January, February.
November, December, January, February.
We also found data from a website that shows a bar chart indicating the months when Kohima's rainfall is at its lowest: November, December, January, February, and March. It turned out that the data provided in the State Disaster Management website, the bar chart from earlier, and what the residents of Kohima actually had to say matched up. According to the Indian Standard Code, the daily water requirement for a single person is 135 liters per day. So, for a family of 4, the water requirement will be 540 liters per day. Now here's the crazy part. Let's assume an average sized home with an average roof area of 1000 square feet. The average annual rainfall of Kohima is 2150 millimeters. If you convert 2150 millimeters of rainfall to liters for a 1000 square feet roof area, you get 1,99,735 liters per year, 16,444 liters per month, and 554 liters per day. You see the irony? We actually get our daily water requirement from rainwater alone. But for something like this to work, we need rainwater harvest systems. So I interviewed a family who has a rainwater system in place and claims that they do not have any water issues throughout the year.
आमेला गोडे यदो पानी टंकी कैपेसिटी दो 1 lakh liters निस्ना दो फिल करो परासे दुईटा टंकी दे आमेला roof area दो maybe around 1500 square feet निस्ना दे है दो 1 lakh liters capacity दो पूरा फिल करो परे आमेला overhead capacity 4000 liters थकेला दो 2 weeks निस्ना दो last कर जाए Every day around 300-400 liters do we need to like that. A household of 7 people there.
In case anyone is confused what a rainwater harvest system is, here's a demo. Rain on roof, collect with gutter system, store in tank, pump water from tank to overhead tank, supply to house. Rainwater harvest tanks are definitely a solution, but is it a solution for everyone? An RCC tank that can hold 1 lakh liters of water can cost anywhere from 30 lakhs to 40 lakhs, which obviously isn't cheap. People find ways around it by using bricks, but as far as I've seen, they always tend to leak. There is a cheaper alternative to RCC water tanks, but first, here's the side hustle that can come out of this: gutter installations. I've been doing this for a while now and it's yours if you're up for it. I will not be sharing the cost and profit of this business. I'll leave that part for you to figure out. Just make sure that you source your materials either from Assam or Kolkata. I will not be sharing the whole business model because it's easy to figure out and so that you can make a profit. Just punch in the numbers and you get what I'm talking about.
Do some work.
A cheaper alternative to RCC tanks would be prefabricated steel tanks, which can cost 2 to 3 times lesser cost-wise. A product my business happens to offer, by the way. You got me, I'll come clean. I'm promoting my business here. I have bills to pay. A prefabricated steel water tank with a capacity of 1 lakh liters can cost you anywhere from 10 to 15 lakhs. If you're interested in installing one, you know who to call.
Better call Saul!
These two systems have their own advantage and disadvantage. The biggest one being RCC water tanks can be placed underground and you can utilize the space on top, but are expensive to build. The prefabricated water tanks are obviously cheaper, but will take up ground level space. Regardless, both serve the same purpose. It really comes down to your requirement, budget, and space available. So either an RCC tank or a steel tank should do it, right? That's the solution to our water problem. Right? It is if you have a big enough space for a 1 lakh liter tank, be it underground or on top, and a tank full of money to shell out, your water crisis is solved. This obviously is not a solution for everyone, so back to the drawing board I went. Initially, I was trying to think about water containers as a cheaper alternative that would require a small area if we stack them up. But after calculating the cost for the containers, installation, transport, the frames that will hold the containers, it did not make sense. Another problem. You see, that's the thing with entrepreneurship. You cut the head of the hydra, 2 more appear. If you choose this path, you need to get very comfortable with solving problems. Borewells are popular now, but I'm not a very big fan of borewells. It can drastically reduce the water table of an area and cause more harm than good. For example, in Guwahati, illegal boring for groundwater to meet the demands of potable water for new buildings is also depleting the water table. In many apartments, buildings have undertaken boring work, which has resulted in a water crisis in neighboring areas. Boring has caused many wells in the area to dry up. From 2000 onwards, many new buildings came up in our area, which began to use deep bore wells, one each for every apartment, including 3 buildings G+3 that emerged on an empty playground. Almost every compound was found to be paved with cement layers and beautiful tiles, making it impossible for rainwater to penetrate the soil. It seemed everyone had a water story, a story of bitter struggle, anxiety, and helplessness for securing water for the household. This is not a far-fetched reality for Nagaland either, especially with the use of concrete everywhere, preventing rainwater from seeping into the ground, further preventing groundwater from recharging. In fact, for this very reason, there are restrictions in some US states on rainwater harvesting. I would highly advise everyone to learn about groundwater recharge. There's enough information on the internet for you to understand how it works, and why anyone planning to install a rainwater harvest system should incorporate a groundwater recharge system along with it. Ring wells are definitely a great option, but they also dry up during the winter months, which is when you actually need water. So in conclusion, if you have money and space, problem solved for you. But what about the rest? Plus, what about multi-storied apartments? They have a fixed roofed area with more number of people living in them. An area of 1,000 square feet is only enough to fulfill the water requirements of one family. What about houses that do not have any space and road connectivity? So what do you do when you're stuck? You go and seek knowledge from the ones that know more. And so, my journey continued.
The warrior ascends up the mountain on a rough, jagged road filled with potholes. Each step is a struggle. The ground beneath him crumbles, almost dragging him down. Suddenly, a mysterious object strikes the warrior. The warrior barely dodges.
You thought you could walk here, not without a bumpy ride?
The demon calls down falling boulders and potholes that suddenly appear. The warrior navigates the treacherous terrain, dodging the falling boulders while watching his steps for the potholes.
You want smooth roads? Ha! You must be new here. Chaos is the only road forward.
Chaos? I prefer progress. A little maintenance and this path will be smoother than your cheap tricks.
As the warrior climbs higher, the air grows thick with dark clouds and the light begins to flicker. Series of streetlights. The warrior realizes that the electricity on this part of the mountain is experiencing load shedding. One moment it's bright, the next he's plunged into darkness. A shadowy figure who plays with a giant light switch, flipping it on and off at random intervals, laughing maniacally each time the warrior stumbles in the dark. The warrior is initially irritated, but calms down and closed his eyes. He must fight in the dark, relying on his instincts and occasional bursts of light to see his path. He also has to avoid tripping over power cables that's all across the ground.
Let's see how you fight in the dark.
I don't need light to see the way forward, but reliable power sure would help. Pay the power bill.
The warrior reaches a steep slope covered in slippery mud, golden coins everywhere, and shady paperwork of false promises. This is the section of the mountain plagued by political corruption. A shadowy figure in a suit, sitting on top of a throne made of gold, tossing gold coins down the mountain and laughing as people take the gold and go to an excavator that says, "More gold," leading all the way up to the next level. But as soon as they reach the top, they immediately slip and fall all the way back to where they started, to a slippery slope that's hidden from them. Seeing this, the warrior takes the longer route and navigates the slippery path while being offered gold by agents of the enemy. Each time he slips, he must catch himself and continue, ignoring the corrupt people's offers of help. As he passes the corrupt figure says,
Everyone has a price. A little gold makes the climb easier, don't you think?
Gold weighs you down, integrity lifts you up.
As the warrior continues, he finds the path narrowing. Ahead is a checkpost, blocked by shadowy figures demanding payment at every step. These are the illegal tax collectors who extort travelers on the mountain. Step tax, Tao tax, breathing tax, existence tax, talking tax, calendar tax, couple tax. The warrior is now angry, cutting through the blocked checkpost in full rage with his Tao and runs up ahead.
Nothing in life is free, not even this climb.
Freedom isn't taxed, but your time is up.
As the warrior nears the summit, he finds himself entangled in a web of ropes, each tied to a different direction. The ropes represent all the tribals of Nagaland that pull the people of Nagaland apart. A giant spider with many arms, each arm holding a rope that pulls in a different direction. The spider tries to keep the warrior from reaching the summit by tugging him into endless arguments and divisions.
We are legion.
The warrior must cut through the ropes, not by severing them completely, but by carefully untangling them and finding a way to unite the strands, turning the ropes into a ladder that helps him reach the top.
You can never reach the top if you're always pulled in different directions.
The strength of unity can lift us all.
The warrior finally reaches the summit. He stands on the peak, catching his breath. There is silence. The sky suddenly clears. Out of the mist, with an aura of calm and wisdom, appears a figure. Richard Balho.
I don't think he needs any introduction. Sir has been such a great mentor to me way before I even graduated. His expertise ranges from architecture to farming to aliens to the secrets of the universe. So who better to consult than Sir Richard Bello? I called Sir expecting him to give me a magical formula to solve this problem. But instead, I ended up in one of his farms, and believe me when I say this, there was sweat. But this is where I finally got to experiment on one of his genius ideas, mechanically stabilized earth.
Kohima water shortage ase na koi na. To ina koi gine moi handu jai gine Israel manu bi ani se. Kohima la water problem over bole. Aro naga manu to government level de bi MOU tok bi sign goi chile. Wali tai han ai gine mahan la sai gine. Apni hando water la ka problem nai do. Moi hando dry desert khande ki khande na pani na thagala de aine kyo kru do. Apni hando iman pani bi se mo ni to MOU na than ni cancel go che. Apni hando water management problem hai se. Na itu to apni nge explain na kurle hoi jaw la hisab te tang koi digine na ine diplomatically chai. Wahan la jaga do first by law thakibo lage also apartment hoji bole na pani tanki pani man thakibo lage bishiman la do gor khan do pani khabole laga hai noi ne fire fighting la bi compulsory thakibo lage do commercial la to itu khan explore goi gine government laga mati khali thaga khan ki te balwa develop no ha khan do first do itu khan he explore goi gine pani tanki do maximum bonai lo lage do aro itu bi purana zaman la style no hoy gine contractor hange diji gule idu khan contract basis te kurishi gule to lab bisare gine eku dalai khan bi thik na koi jabo aro by chance pani la tanki to dalai ba ra kura na gule to pani la tanki leak ha karne landslide khan bi shi trigger kura ase town la center khan de ki landslide hoi thaga khan puila time de ba bra nyom ba dalai na koi gine pani tanki khan leak hoi gine he idu khan trigger kura ase torne first to bhai loi thakibo lage aro construction kura tumde pani tanki khan bona tumde proper pond liner khan idu bi pond liner bi ine andas la no ine pani store kuro para la grade la dibo lage kilo gole aro idu do fungus khan bacteria khan ki khan algae khan formation hoi jay mechanically stabilized earth to babu gule to is proven thousands of years la technology as do hoilibi ajikali manu knowledge la repository nai to ini pahuri jaygi ne ajikali to so high end concrete khan chola ase hoilibi concrete to nyom ba cholai chule thik ase holi nyom ba cholao na pare gule to na cholai ri iki ase to ne mechanically stabilized earth koi daga to itu simple ase itu soil tala geometry ekta thake tai naturally stable ho laga tala angle of repose koi ne thake itu angle to par na kuri aro every section de tala choto ekta layer ekta tai he ki la material holi soil la layer to break kuri di shikle to tai tala strain to bishi ho jay to manu khan pote itu evident ho jay gule beach khan de sand la sculpture khan banai de ne to apni he jane banai sab to bonom na kro to apni laga balu to pura giri jao to tandu lukai gine idu dale ko ini tissue paper bra hai tissue paper layer bijai gina tani dale wena gine mechanically stabilize kuri di inni stabilize kurule idu kana Kohima la town khan is na idu khan on pollution plastic khan ki gena ai dike idu ando sob loi gine ekta raw material is na he idu aro clay he loi gine mohan laga soil erosion khan bi protect kurule ini bana pare waste plastic khan loi ne soil stabilize kulo retaining wall khan pat emergency de banai lo pare सब गोर्डे भी पानी तो कलेक्शन करो पड़ेगा कल भी से जगह थका नहीं इना होइसे गुले से एकता गवर्नमेंट लगा पार्किंग एरिया एकता थकिसे माटी खाली एकता थकिसे ता दे डांगर टैंकी बनाइले भी होले भी फीडर दो प्राइवेट ला गोर खान ब्रा है पानी तो फीड कुइने ता दे दाली Our bichi to itu he pani to he palm going overhead thing ekta dali dichi bole do. Tada aro sob manu cholo parbo do. Kili gole ina la strategy kura nai gole do ini winter khan de kode pani pao. Jaga thakile do mati mali khan kotha gorine mili gini bi kuma manu mati de dibi kuma manu paisa dibi ina goi gini pani tanki banao re. Gole bi community lagai na storage tank jaga jaga na banaile. In terms of calamity na pani na thakile do kininga government ke blame koi thakile bi iku kuro na baro do. Puncha tam to gor do sob jili thakile do garne. Ina la strategy public pra hai private pra hai start na korele do sob time de do han government lobby depend koi thakile iku kam nai do.
We know how it can be done, but can we as a people come together and make this a reality? I could not say for sure. So back I went to Sir Richard.
Tribalism la issue do olai gole do mohan ajigli do easy money khan bisare nohile do manu do society do ini mili ne kam gorule hiki she ekjon lo pore depend koine kiba korise gole na kothai wala hole nai do ane tinta charta gor malik mili kini bi mohan la common ne ekta banawo na thank you pani lo adam do mohan bi every day 2 gunda pani tani war iman man takate rao na ina go ni jila baki bi tere lo pore do to sob manu pani collect kuri gine dali ase gulu achikli do digital metering system khan bi ase apni la gorba kiman rainwater harvest kuri ni de iman da apni garne free pra pawo na ine na ho chiglu bi sob manu niji investment kuri ne pani tenki do kibo ko do.
And that's how it's done, folks. Now I know that we're still only talking theory here. So this is a call to action. If there's a brave soul out there who can bring in their community and test this theory out, let me know. Me and my team will be more than happy to help out with the details and supervise the work for free. The idea that such a silly video such as this could potentially change lives and possibly our economy is enough to excite me. I look forward to testing out this theory. Until next time, whack me.